We welcome everyone to the inaugural After School and Summer Learning Virtual Summit. We are just delighted that you've chosen to spend this time with us. I'm Gail Morgan, Associate Executive Director of Professional Learning for NAESP, the National Association of Elementary School Principals. Our summit is provided by our organization to provide principals and key leaders of our after-school and summer learning programs with the essential knowledge and the skills and also valuable resources to meet the needs of your students, whether that be social, emotional, academic, or whatever. That's the whole purpose in what we're doing. Our conversation today, back to the basics, how to effectively lead an after-school and summer learning program. This is just one of 3 webinars. We will hear from leading researchers in the field, practicing leaders who are doing exceptional work in the after-school and summer learning area, and also learn about quality resources that are just a click away, that are available to you to expand or to begin or to enhance your efforts to help your students. So if you've not registered for April 17th or April the 21st, which is the next 2 Tuesdays in the month, for the summit, it's not too late. That registration is still open, and it's available on our website at naesp.org. The foundational work of the platform and the resources that encompass this virtual summit stem from NASP's recent release of a Principal Magazine supplement, which is Connecting the Dots, making the most of after-school and summer learning programs, as well as our online portal, which Honor's going to tell you more about later in the conversation today. But NASP, we're very extremely appreciative, very appreciative of the partnership that we have with the Mott Foundation that makes all of these resources possible. So we thank them for their valuable input that they've helped us to provide this for you. So to begin our session today, we would like to welcome Dr. Malone, Dr. Helen Jack Malone, who is Editor-in-Chief of the Outer School Time book series, Institute for Educational Leadership, and she's brought along a colleague to the conversation. And Dr. Malone will let you introduce your colleague, and thank you for sharing with us today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate being part of this conversation and joining a lot of you online principals and after-school professionals. So I'm Helen Malone. I wear multiple hats at the Institute for Educational Leadership. I'm Director of our Education Policy and our Institutional Advancement. I'm also the National Director of Education Policy Fellowship Program, now in its 54th year. We have over 9,000 alumni across the country, including hundreds of principals in many states. In this particular presentation, I'll be wearing more of a hat that I have as the Editor-in-Chief of the newly released Information Age Publishing book series on out-of-school time. With me is my colleague, Jose Munoz, from the Institute for Educational Leadership. I'll have him introduce himself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jose Munoz. I am the Director for the Coalition for Community Schools at the Institute for Educational Leadership. A little bit about me and my background. So I come from an after-school context. I actually went to school to become a teacher, but got involved with the Boys and Girls Clubs early on and did that for 13 years across the country. And within the community, I've learned how to blend that with community schools when I was in Albuquerque, New Mexico. With that now, past 6 months, I've been learning my new way in this directorship of the coalition, which is an alliance of over 200 local, state, and national partners who use community schools to promote equity and advocate for all the services necessary for our young children to succeed, stronger families, and healthier communities. So thank you very much. Nice meeting you.
So so I'll go to our next slide. So today we're talking about, again, I will be talking about some of the broader macro trends where we are as a field in out-of-school time. So one of the reasons we want to talk about this is there's a brand new book as part of the Information Age Publishing on current issues in out-of-school time to take stock of sort of where the out-of-school time has been in terms of the past, present, and future. If you go to next slide, this has been a compilation of both researchers and practitioners across the country both in a school context and out of school time context, who have really used the opportunity within this volume to talk about kind of where we are as a field and how far we have gone, both in terms of the role the after school plays in the learning and development of children and youth, as well as what is the future directions. The reason why I wanted to talk about this, if you go to the next slide, and one more, is that school and after school have been partnering for over a century. Schools and after school programs playing kind of critical roles in spaces with after school programs not only provide sort of custodial function or homework assistance functions, but really positive youth development, an opportunity for youth to learn in new ways, explore, get to really build strong peer bonds and peer adult relationships, and also explore with their interests, both in terms of their careers, but also in terms of their pursuits in post-secondary and as well as their personal interests. So after school has always been a platform for both development and leadership. What we have seen over the last 20 years is that has been more intentional investment of both the state, local, federal side, and philanthropic side to build the after-school field and support both after-school and summer as important, vital learning and development contexts, and also to create abilities and opportunities for both the education system and human services and the school and after-school partnerships to come together in different ways and sort of link and alignment that provides that support and ongoing support to students they serve. So if you go to the next two slides, so if we think about what we know from research, there's a lot that has grown both in terms of, because of all the public and private investments over the last 20 years, we have learned quite a bit on what it takes to develop a whole child, to support successful youth transitions across the K-12 system and in the post-secondary. So this is just drawing on one of IEL's guideposts for success, which we have developed a few years ago, that provides some of the general review on all the literature that exists in the field around youth development. And so what we know is that the out-of-school time spaces are really critical spaces for construction of oneself, relationships to others, opportunities to develop social and civic and leadership skills, to connect to caring adults and peers, and to receive support services that can help youth transition successfully into adulthood. If we go to the next slide. What we also learned through research and evaluation as well as practice in the field is that we now have a much more robust picture of what is after school and how it relates not only to school but also how it relates to child and youth development. So we now recognize that after school takes place across the year. So it's after school and summer, but it's also before school, it's on holidays and it's on weekends. And for some youth, it's become a vital place to go, not only for a safe environment, but it's also a safe, engaging learning environment. And one provides services and supports they might not have access to otherwise. It's also a place where we have a strong connection with anchor institutions, so the recognition that both schools and libraries and museums and many other institutions provide those anchors in the community where youth can really feel safe navigating across and within to learn and to grow. We also know, as I mentioned, that after school is not only a concept of homework or tutoring systems, which obviously is commonly used, and after school provides a great space for that, but it's really a learning environment that happens year-round across a variety of contexts, including increasingly being part of the expanded school day and integrated within school in meaningful ways. We also know that after school is very diverse. It's not only one sort of subject area. It really develops a variety of skills and knowledge and capacities of youth, whether that's around physical education and health, whether it's around tutoring, whether it's around STEM or STEAM, 21st century skills, increasingly focused on social emotional learning. And then that how after school has this great variety of programs that really has provided youth with different ways of both entry into different learning opportunities, but also different experiences, whether that's informal learning, kind of peer-to-peer or mentoring, whether it's non-formal in terms of personalized learning, deeper learning, project-based, community-based learning, or again, integrated as part of the school day. And sort of the why research and evaluation has really helped us to get a bigger sense of what is the why of the after school, which we address in this book, but it's also something that obviously the field has been able to message increasingly, which is the developmental and learning frame, the seamless transitions, including to the post-secondary, but it's also the equity frame. We know that for a lot of students, the access to out-of-school time programs is not just about closing the achievement gap, it's also providing opportunities and access to experiences that routinely are available to middle class and upper middle class students. It's also an opportunity to access new skills and opportunities and explorations that really address a variety of both needs but also interests that young people might have. If you go to the next slide, the other piece that we address in this book that's important to know when we talk about sort of the role that out-of-school time plays is that there's been, again, increasing investment and growing investment, one that should not stop, in helping to build out the field as a whole. So we've seen over the last 20 years pretty significant investments in understanding what it is to be a youth-serving professional, and the National After-School Association has put out the core competencies for the field, and every state now has also state standards. What really provides some of those ladders around the professional development and advancing in the field. It's not only seen as after-school volunteers, it's really seen as a profession where people are doing a very valuable service and support that is in partnership and the congruence with education and with other partners in the community. There's also been a vast amount of research and evaluation that has really helped to inform what are the best practices of after-school and summer programs, as well as what are the best practices in school and after-school and school or summer camp in other contexts. What are some of the core competencies and some of the partnerships, strengths, and steps that one might take to kind of build that alignment. And finally, there's been a lot of research in terms of the development around child and youth development. The other two pieces I want to mention is that because, as you mentioned on top, with Mott Foundation and other foundations investing, there's been now also the advocacy, primarily I think in the After School Alliance, but also the National Network of Statewide After-School Networks that Collaborative Communications has done a wonderful stewardship of really growing this network. They've really enabled after-school to have both presence and visibility and sustainability that has helped the field grow in terms of its quality and standards. It's also in terms of meeting the demand, which is still not met, but it's also sharing promising practices and innovations and growing in a systemic way. If you go to the next slide, I just wanted to, this is just scratching the surface, but I just wanted to show kind of the diversity of things that have happened over the last 20 years in the after-school space. There are some books and reports and journals that have been launched over the years, some anthologies that have helped to kind of situate where we are as the field, where we're growing, what are some of the latest research and evaluation. There have also been really helpful frameworks that have been published that speak to the latest research on child and youth development and why these type of spaces and environments and opportunities are really pivotal for child and youth development. And I've also included a couple of instruments as well, including one you see here from UCI, University of California, Irvine, in terms of their toolbox, as well as some of the other instruments the states are using to show that we have, as after-school fields, they have also grown in instruments to help to really assess both the program quality and the student level, but also in terms of systems. And so those data have been really valuable. We see increasingly also the research and practice partnerships, as well as partnerships between schools and after schools, to after-school context, to really share data to meaningfully build partnerships and to build quality and capacity. If you go to the next two slides, I just want to briefly mention kind of where the field is headed. Obviously, there are many ways the field has headed, but one of the, I think, advantages, especially from the principal point of view to think about, is that the community partners are really assets that can really help and assist the work that the school is trying to do, but also meet the needs of students and youth and community at large. So kind of three core themes that we see emerging in the after school is one is just kind of that really equity-driven community change agent role that a lot of partners, community partners play, both for children and youth, but also for the role that these kind of learning spaces have. The other one is that by nature, after-school and summer programs have really been interdisciplinary and cross-disciplinary, tapping on a variety of expertise and content areas, which really can enrich, especially in areas where schools have limited resources or where schools are trying to provide additional opportunities and supports for students. And then lastly, that after-school and summer programs also provide a great place to incubate and accelerate innovation because they have the flexibility, they have room to try and test different ways and approaches to learning, to content, to relationship building that can be really powerful in terms of, from principals' points of view, of what role after-school and summer programs can play. If you go to the next slide. So I want to also approach in terms of challenges. Obviously, after-school and summer programs, there's still unmet need. That there's a lot of national surveys from After-School Alliance and from a lot of state surveys that clearly show that there is this need to continue to elevate the importance and the need for after-school and summer programs, not only to close the opportunity gap, but also to elevate it as an important partner in the community. So it's not seen as an add-on or nice but not necessary or custodial function that we see, well, we need to keep kids safe somewhere after school, so they should just go to a particular program, but really see the value added that these particular programs play in the learning and development of the children and youth that they serve, and really approach from that frame, both in terms of school and after-school partnerships, but also approach that from that frame and all the knowledge that we have now in the research and evaluation work about what is the value added when it comes to some of the advocacy and sustainability. So if we go to the next slide, some of the areas that the after-school field itself certainly in our book we talk about some of the different directions that we still have to go to. And it's clear that both in terms of young people, and I'll just briefly mention a couple of these because I want to turn it to Jose, is that we know that there's now an opportunity to think about young people, and not only how do we support young people from a particular demographic, but how do we support really the whole child from a variety of contexts and make sure that we're able to address all the needs that youth have versus some, and to recognize the complexity of context and the opportunities that we have. Next slide. On the practitioner side, there's certainly a continuation of conversations on how to continue to grow the field, how do we continue to create those ladders and incentives for people to be attracted to the after-school and summer field, to stay in the field. It's similar conversation in some respects to what we're seeing on the K-12 side in terms of teachers and principals and leaders. And after-school is in many ways leading the way of really having those deeper conversations around cultural competence, about attracting practitioners of color, and really focusing on expanding and deepening partnerships for collective action. And last slide. On the research, there has been really a lot of conversations about how do we build more intentional research practice partnerships, and how do we focus and use research to really advance practice, and how do we create those feedback loops so the research is really not just synthesized but applied, but also how this field develop a stronger voice to inform the field. So I will stop there, and we can certainly answer questions at the end, but I want to switch to Jose to really talk about how this knowledge of research and evaluation apply in the school setting.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Helen. Good foundation, too. Let me start off with just telling you what a community school is. So a community school is a public school that's the hub of its neighborhood that unites all the families, educators, and community partners. And together they provide all students with top quality academics, some enrichment activities we're talking about, health and social services, and opportunities for their children to succeed not only in school but in life as well. Our movement, now there's over 5,000 different community schools across the country, and we're a standards-driven, evidence-based strategy that really promotes equity and educational excellence for every single child, especially those who are most vulnerable. Being a community school, what after-school programs can help create are opportunities to also inside of the school and around the school to strengthen families in their community. And although we're standards-driven, what you're seeing on the screen now is a framework for community schools that simply explains it. And I'll go over that framework with you. You start right in the center, just like you would any type of target of really gathering and focusing on not just the needs of the children, but also the interests of the children. And doing that, you begin to learn what type of activities and services and opportunities for you to bring inside of the school. Those typically fall in several categories, which is the orange circle right around you, those opportunities, which are powerful learning, integrated health and social supports, and some real authentic family and community engagement. Within those, there are some very collaborative practices that families and community partners and educators work together, which include some shared ownership, strategic community partners that are relevant to the interests and needs that you learn from your children, a lot of resource coordination that we rely on a person we call a coordinator to do, and some data-driven planning, not just the hard number data, but also data gathered from community wisdom. And then a very inclusive leadership where it's not incumbent solely on the school for our young people's success, but it's incumbent upon the entire community. But to have an inclusive leadership style from the school, beginning with the school, is very important. That helps in order to for that to help. There's some capacity building supports just to nurture those practices. A lot of times schools will need some coaching for how to do continuous improvement, and then that stakeholders, some leadership development for all stakeholders. That includes young people who are at an age, at any age, who can contribute to the planning, our family members, our community partners, and oftentimes that professional development is shared across, leadership development is shared across, and professional learning opportunities are shared across those cross sectors. All these things are actually driven by the engagement and participation. So I'll talk later about setting up some venues, which like for after school, where that participation and engagement can take place, but that is very intentional about the engagement of all the different stakeholders. Moving out, so you see some dots around there, just some principles within a community school or values for a community school that you see there. One is building that relational trust, knowing that it takes some extended time to actually build a relationship with all the stakeholders, and maybe even some particular people to do that. There's a very sharp focus on equity for all students. So are all the after-school programs and after-school opportunities, are there opportunities there also so those children who are most vulnerable, who maybe need some extra attention, whether it be some services, whether it be from tutoring or some other wraparound services that can take care of some of their family's needs. But then there's continuous improvement. These schools are designed to really enhance the performance and improve the results that schools are looking for, some of the academic performance, but also the social and emotional impacts that we need for our young people. And then, of course, what are some of the outcomes, the conditions we want to create on the outers of the circles? We want to create some conditions where young people live in safe, stable, and supportive environments, not just in school, but at home as well, so strong families. We want to make sure our young people are prepared academically, the college career, and that contribute back to their community as well. And finally, we want the entire community to be healthy economically. We want it to be healthy socially and relationally as well. So community school, a lot of that work that happens with a community school helps address and create those conditions. If you look at the next slide, the advantages. So because of how intentional a community school will work and all the engagement, community schools typically provide some learning opportunities that are developing our young folks academically, and we talked about socially, emotionally as well, competencies, and some other competencies like workforce development for not just the children, but for the family members as well. They build on social capital. So there's lots of human capital there where individuals have skills and competencies that they typically lend to themselves and their families. Well, community school, by bringing people together often, has built some social capital that creates more opportunities for our young people. And then finally, What a lot of our schools need support with is garnering some additional resources that support the school, take some pressure off our educators, and we surround them by some supports and opportunities from our broader community. And what could that look like? So next slide. From an after-school standpoint, so I wanted to just show you what it could look like. This is PS IS 50, of course. You see this is from 2008, 2009 from a study that we conducted of 40 different places around the country. Many of them look similar with different figures. So I don't want you to get shell-shocked by the figures because this is New York. You can take the, but I would like you to look at the different shapes of the pie and some of the services and opportunities. One of the bigger ones you see is after-school programming, and you see another one, health services. Well, typically when we start keeping students at the center, we learn that they have a number of needs, whether it be physical or mental health needs. They have health services, and sometimes that pie is smaller or greater in some communities than others. But after school, what it does, though, coming from the after-school background myself, what it does is, one, it gives the school a focused population that they're working with. But if parents, I'm a parent of 5, I'm sure there's a lot of parents on this call too, we love to take advantage of some of the opportunities like workforce development inside of a school, or just socializing with other parents inside of a school, or where can our children go? So that's one way that after schools can be used. But a big piece is how do we begin to integrate powerful learning of what young people are learning inside the classroom, and how do our after-school practitioners, youth development professionals are applying that in after-school world. So I wanted to give you a picture of what a community school could look like when you're leveraging that after-school time to really make an impact on those most vulnerable children. And finally, next slide, some practical steps. So just thinking about, this could get so complex sometimes. Just want to give you some very practical steps based off of the framework. You see, number 1 is just learn student interest. Oftentimes we go straight to the need. We put some focus on learn their interest, especially when it comes to after school. That's what makes after school programs succeed. It's fun, it's engaging, and it's relevant to what the young people, depending on what their age is, and from their context of what they're interested in. So really learning their interests, spending some time to engage people. Number 2 there, you see engage teachers and partners. So I include family members in that partners piece of it. And when you begin to engage teachers and partners after you learn what young people's interests, and think about what can happen in our after-school space. Instead of just putting in after-school programs to keep young people busy, as Helen was mentioning earlier, let's get some thinking around this and what can happen. So once you engage teachers and partners, you've got to set up a platform for them to engage often. So number 3, you have set consistent planning and meeting for them to come together often to see what is working and use data to help guide some continuous improvement and make it more robust. And then finally have some fun implementing those ideas. And then finally just keep it assessing, come back to the table and improve. That's a little bit how we can catalyze out of school time just from a simple framework of how to get started.
All right, very good. Thank you so much to the Institute for Ed Leadership. We appreciate you sharing that information as well as the resources that are there. Great stuff, great stuff. Principals and program director voice is very important to NASP, and we proudly support you in this important work. One of the many videos that are posted on our After School and Summer Learning portal notes the exemplary work of Levi Elementary School in Memphis, Tennessee. Let's take a quick look at what they're doing.
I'm sorry, but I'm not able to hear any of the sound of the video.
Okay, well, we're going to tell you in just a moment where you can find that video and many other videos. So, we're sorry for the technical difficulties. We will see if we can get that worked out, but Honor will share with you in just a few minutes how you can see that video as well as other people's videos. But we welcome today Dr. Janice Tanks of Levi Elementary School. And Dr. Tankston, if you will, share with us what you're doing in your school.
Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Dr. Janice Tanks, principal of Levi Elementary. We're part of the 21st Century Learning Grant, so we're able to, for our students to attend our aftercare program free of charge. So we have about 75 to maybe 90 students that stay after school every afternoon from 3:30 until 6 o'clock. And our teachers are paid through that learning grant. The students are fed dinner in the afternoons. They are given a snack. We have an academic portion where the teachers that are selected tutor students, looking at their homework, ensuring that the students get their homework completed with a tutor or a teacher. They also have fun activities, and most times we're working on some type of creative arts, plays, or something dealing with performing arts. So it's typically some type of performing play that we will have the students participate in. And this is always like a culminating activity at the end of the year. So we try our best to make it definitely academic in nature, but fun overall.
Great. Thank you so much. And we're going to loop back to that video. So I'm not sure what happened with that. But we appreciate the work that you're doing, Dr. Kingston at Levi Elementary, and we commend you for all the investments that you've made there. Honor Feedy, we welcome her today. She has done an outstanding job since the beginning of the implementing this program since its inception. And Honor, we thank you for your diligent work. And if you will now show us how we can get to these resources in that video that we were just unable to view.
Sure, no problem. Again, I apologize for that. I'll have to look into that. What I'd like to do is take everybody to our after-school website, which is located on the NAESP, afterschool.naesp.org. And there we have assembled through the Mott Grant a number of different kinds of resources, including a wonderful set of best practice videos. We had videographers go around to 12 different states through our members and actually find out what's going on in after school in these different schools. And we have quite a different array of rural schools, art schools, math, literacy, math, social emotional type programs, partnerships with colleges, STEAM programs, including this one here that just didn't work, unfortunately. But I would encourage you to check these things out, because what it showed us and what it showed our members is that after school is varied. There's a lot of different kinds of programs that really are engaging students and are helping principals increase the learning in their school. And principals are actually getting engaged with after school and incorporating after school and summer learning into the regular school day, so that it's one more tool and resource they can use to help students and to help increase the positive culture in the school. So I'd encourage you to check those resources out. In addition, we realized that there'll be other folks coming to our site, not just principals, but maybe after-school network, state network coordinators or summer learning coordinators or others, just the public. So we wanted a site on here that was devoted looking at all 50 states. This is the 50-state map. And in here, what we've provided for each state are resources and activities pertinent to that state in after school and summer learning, the quality standards if the state has some. So if you are building an after school program or a summer learning program and you want to find out what the state standards are, here's the place to check it out. And then policy, funding, and research. So check that out. The other thing that we have here is we have some specific site resources just devoted to after school tools and best practice resources, both for practitioners, researchers, and everyone else. So you'll see here that, if you're a new principal or you're a principal and you've not had an after-school program, here's ways to get started in it. Just some tips and help helpful resources. Funding information, if you already have a program and you want to increase the quality of it, here's some resources for that. Then we go on to arts policy, just different things, other videos that we'd like to help you with. Then we have a less robust site for summer learning resources. We're always building on that. But again, if you want to get started in summer learning or you want to evaluate your program, there's some tools there, research and policy and other resources. Lastly, the purpose of today's webinar is for me to outline some of the tools that we've assembled. NAESP has been involved in after-school and summer learning since the mid-2000s. And in 2006, we came out with a publication called Leading After-School Learning Communities, What Principals Should Know and Be Able to Do. That book was well received by the community, and it had lots of tools and ideas and standards and guidelines for creating after-school programs. And what we did is we built off that publication and brought it up to date for current reality. And that's what the Leading After-School Learning Communities Resource Toolkit is all about. This is a toolkit of 9 different tools that you can use in incorporating and evaluating after-school programs. So the part of the webinar for today is we're going to be looking at tool 1, 2, and 3. And I've already gone ahead and downloaded those. Let's talk about tool 1 first. Tool 1 is all about knowing the research, making the case for after-school programs, and we have quite a lot of research on the site. One of which I'd like to just bring to your attention. We have this publication, but we also have NAESP has conducted a survey of 1,217 principals across the country, and we've asked them to rate and talk about how after school is being incorporated in their schools. So we've compiled this research study called Beyond the Classroom, What Principals Want When It Comes to After School and Summer Learning. I'd encourage all of you to download this piece of research. It gives wonderful graphs and statistics to help you understand where principals are in terms of after school and summer learning and what's important to them. This chart here talks about how principals view after-school activities in terms of where they think it helps the most. The number 1 is homework help, which is rather interesting. When you talk to after-school folks, that's kind of like last on their list. But anyway, I'd encourage you to check out that report when you come to that tool 1. We also have some other research that is also helpful in looking at how after school and summer learning is helping school students in schools, both with their social and emotional learning, but also with their academic performance. Tool 2, here is a tool for strategies for principals to use in thinking about updating their vision and learning and asking about expanding their vision. So here's some strategies. You can talk about expanding the vision of learning to include high-quality experiences, both in and out, actually making after-school and summer learning a part of your regular school vision, and incorporating that as a catalyst to developing quality programs. Then some other strategies, working with after-school directors to evaluate programs, supporting linkages and connections and relationships between the school day and after-school learning that ensure the program content meets community, school, and student needs. So that's tool 2. Again, this is a tool that you can use in meetings with other after-school coordinators, or we encourage principals to use this in their planning sessions with their leadership teams. Tool 3. Tool 3 is another planning tool, and here again we give you some ideas for talking about vision and expanding it, but we also provide you some tools, some questions that you can ask yourselves and ask your teachers and your leadership team members and everyone in the school to think about when talking about what do we want in an after-school and summer learning program? What is it important? There's so many different types and kinds. How can this program help us? So take a look at those questions and consider those for reflection in your meetings. So let me take you back out completely. Let's go to the NAESP website. So this is our website here, and under resources, if you scroll down, you will see a link here to After School and Summer Learning Resources. If you click on that link, that will take you right into the portal with everything there.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Honor, for your diligent work in this program and helping it to progress to this point, as well as sharing today.
You're welcome.
In addition to all the resources that you have heard today, we'd like to extend a personal invitation to you to continue this conversation at our national conference that will be held in Orlando, Florida in July. Registration is now available, and at our conference we have sessions planned specifically for after-school and summer learning program leaders and principals to help you to kind of lead, learn, and rethink what you're doing in your current school and how you can provide more opportunities for your students and how you can work through the planning and implementation with your staff to provide those quality experiences. So we do hope that you will join us for that event. As we wrap up, we'd like to do a poll question with you. Very simple. We just want to know exactly who is in the audience today. So if you would just take a moment just to tell us, whatever your current role is, which of these categories do you mostly fall in? Are you an elementary principal, middle level principal, or a program director? If you're other, like if you're with an association or something, maybe if you could just chat that and put a comment in the box to Honor so we can kind of get a gauge of who's participating today. So elementary principal, middle level principal, program director, or other if you're with an association or someone else, just chat that to Honor in the comment box. Okay, all right, good split there. Very good. Well, we appreciate all of your participation, and at this time we have a few minutes that we'd like to entertain any questions that you may have. So Honor, if you'll tell us how we can go about posing any questions we may have.
Sure. So if you would, all of you have been muted. If you wouldn't mind, now is the time to submit your questions in the question box. Here, we'll take a few seconds here for folks to write those questions in and ask, any burning questions about after school and summer learning. Okay. Oh, one question is coming in already. They ask, how do we find out more resources from the Institute for Educational Leadership's discussion? Is there a website that we can go to, Helen?
Yes, if you go to IEL.org, which is our homepage of the Institute for Educational Leadership, you'll be able to access through that both our community schools work as well as the work that we have through Center for Workforce Development, which I mentioned in terms of our guideposts. That particular area of work provides also great tools around career-focused mentoring in middle school and the secondary level, as well as tools around independent learning plans and how to support youth with disabilities and at-risk youth. And also on that website you'll find the information around our family community engagement pertaining to resources around dual capacity framework, how to build school-family community partnerships, as well as I mentioned on top our education policy fellowship program. One of the slides that I had also had a link to our book, which also has a link to our full book series. There's one coming out with social emotional learning in September.
Great, thank you. I think that's about it. Gail?
Okay, I do have one question that I would like to ask the panelists. And again, this will go back to Principal Tankston as well as our other panelists. If you could offer one key piece of advice or suggestion to leaders of after-school and summer learning programs, what might that be?
This is Jose. One piece of advice to offer leaders in summer learning and after-school programming engage the very population you're trying to find out their interest. I haven't seen it fail in 25 years.
Okay, my next question would be to the participants today, and you can answer this in the box, and Honor can relay that to us. If you had to identify your greatest challenge wherever you are in your journey with after school and summer learning, what would you say is the greatest challenge that you're facing in beginning, implementing, or enhancing your after school and summer learning work? What is the greatest challenge that you're facing as a principal or a program director in providing after school and summer learning quality programs?
So Linda shares with us funding, capital exclamation.
Okay, well, if you have additional suggestions or ways that you can think of that NASP can help you in your work or in your journey, please feel free to reach out to us, because we always have an open ear, and we're wanting to provide things that are essential and helpful in helping you to help students. And we'd like to extend a personal thank you to our speakers today, as well as those of you who have participated, because this event would not have been possible without either group. And we wish you all best wishes in your continued success in leading after school and summer learning programs. And if we at NASP can ever assist you, please do not hesitate to reach out. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful afternoon.